Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to the Vintage Sewing Machine Garage. You are watching a episode of the restoration of the FOF Model 30, and what you see is, on my work table here, you see a foot pedal or foot controller, foot pedal speed controller. Let's just spit it out there. This is the one that came with the machine, and just to let you all know, sometimes if you don't see any information with specifications on the foot pedal itself, like electrical information, sometimes they're actually embossed on the front. They didn't use a sticker, they didn't paint them on, they actually embossed them, which is interesting because they were determined for these not to wear off. It says Mercury Electric Products Manufacturing Company, and it's got a catalog number. And then it has two cat numbers. It has 115 volts, AC, DC, made in USA. So, and then there's a CSA app number or application number, and that is 122228. The reason you see CSA, that is for Canadian certification. So, this is actually a clue that if not the machine, at least the pedal was sold here in Canada, and Canada and the US share a lot of electrical standards and specifications, but when you go to a different country, you still have to have your product certified there, or you should. Anyway, so today I'm going to be opening up this foot pedal. Now, I've shown you some foot pedals recently where you simply unscrewed a bolt or a screw to get access to remove the bottom panel so we could look inside. This machine, this machine's pedal rather, has basically it is slid. The pedal itself is slid into the base, and the base has these crimpings, these steel that is basically there to keep it snug. If you look at you can look at the angle here, you'll see that. And then it actually catches it here in the back. So what we want to do, if we turn the pedal upside down, we're going to, you can see there's a hole here, and then there's a little slot. And I'm going to be putting a screwdriver, and I need to do this. You don't want to be too harsh here because you don't want to damage anything on the inside of the pedal. But I'm basically going to take I have a screwdriver here, and I have a mallet. This is a sort of a nylon plastic mallet. Rubber mallet is good to use too. And what I may do here is I'm going to take a piece of fabric, and why I'm doing this is just to give a little bit of cushion to the edge of this screwdriver, so I don't scratch anything, and we'll see if that helps at all. Now remember, unlike some of the other pedals I've shown recently, do not take your screwdriver. Make sure this is unplugged, by the way. Reminder to self, reminder to you, it is not plugged in. Do not take your screwdriver and try to pry this off, because you'll end up mangling it. Why? Because it's designed to come off a different way. It has to sort of be slid out. And what I really would like is a way to cushion this and still get my screwdriver in there. So this is just a piece of felt. I'm going to slip that there. I've now got my screwdriver, at least I have the felt there. And I'm going to tap. Remember, I'm not prying. I'm trying to basically get the screwdriver on the edge of that bottom plate so I can then tap it. And I'm trying to essentially slide it off. And if you look, I've made some progress here, and I've actually moved it. Sometimes, remember, this thing has probably not been opened since it was made back in the day. Sometimes, and you want to be very careful, do not put the screwdriver in too deep. You could damage something inside. Sometimes you can put the screwdriver just maybe a quarter of an inch down, and then push and slide, but it's not having it. That's pretty normal. So if you're going to get the base off, you often are going to need to continue to tap. I don't have any reason to think the pedal has a problem. And when I shake it, I don't hear any noise, but I want to know if this pedal is in good shape, meaning has it ever been dropped? Has it been, is the porcelain cracked? I want to know that. Some of you just take your pedals and you run with them and they're fine. That's your choice, but I like doing this because, let's see if I can find, I'm looking for something that would work a little bit better for me here. I have an old felt washer. Let's see if that will help me. I'm just trying to get something there to cushion the end of my screwdriver. Oops. My hand slipped and I whacked my finger. So again, sometimes I can, sort of push these out, but it's not wanting to cooperate with me today on that. And there we go. I've gotten a little bit more space. And if my washer falls down in the pedal, no big deal. I'll be opening this up to get it out. Now, once I start to get some space here, I have to be extra careful. Remember, I've got my screwdriver pointing like this. If it slips, I don't want to drive it into any of the parts in there. So I want to be extra careful. So now I'm going to kind of turn it on this end, which may look a little strange, but the point is, this screwdriver, or whatever you're going to use to push against this plate, this bottom plate, you want it to be shallow. You don't want it to fall down into the unit. You want to kind of keep everything up here, so because we know the plate clears the components below, and we want to make sure that we don't cause any further issues. Now I'm going to take it and turn it around. Lost a little bit of paint there, but the bottom of my pedal normally is not something. I think I need a thicker piece of felt. Okay, so now I'm going to turn it this way. Get a few things out of our way here. Sometimes once I've gotten it this far, I can sort of push. This can be sharp, so be careful, as I should remind myself of that. And I'm actually pushing it away. So far, again, I don't want to touch any of the mechanical pieces there. And there it went. And give yourself some space on your table, because it stayed on the table, but just barely. Okay, so what are we going to find when we look here? Hopefully, usually what I always see. Some dust bunnies, one just flew out there, and not much else. So, again, this is a Rheostat, and you can see I've got the pedal, it's upside down. I'll be pushing it with my hand, and you can see as I do, it swipes across this range of coil wire. And this is, like I say, what I always see. This gray material is porcelain. Porcelain has a very high heat tolerance, which is why one of the reasons it gets used. If any of you remember really old school fuses, they would use glass and a porcelain because they were resistant to heat. Now, the first thing I want to do is I'm going to take cotton swabs. You knew those were coming, right? And I'm just going to I'm going to take a dry cotton swab right now and just kind of go around. Sometimes the cotton swab will pick up sometimes things that are loose. Sometimes you'll get, just you can see a little bit of whatever this is. mostly just dust. And again, be very mindful of these wires, these coiled wires. Do not, you don't want to put any kind of pressure on those wires. Leave them be. Now, if you have, I think I've had before, you can see some of this stuff coming off here. Most of the dirt that I'm getting is actually down around the side. If you get any kind of dust buildup that has managed to hit your coils, what you can do is simply use a vacuum. I have a vacuum cleaner, and it has a very small set of attachments. I think they were originally sold for, vacuuming like the keyboards of laptops or something. As long as it's very soft, you don't want to touch it. Don't touch the coils with anything hard, but if it's like a soft bristle, usually you can go in very gently and vacuum if you need to. And now you're seeing what I'm taking off here. Honestly, as old as this pedal is, it's in relatively clean. It's got some dust and grime, but think about it. Some of the grime here is actually stuck to the cord. And again, all of this is coming off just with a dry cotton swab. I have not even put any alcohol on the cotton swab yet. And so far sometimes you'll see a lot more dust. It depends on how the machine was stored. Sometimes if a foot pedal was left on the floor and the owner had, maybe they had pets, or maybe they just had a dusty house, who knows. Those are situations where you may find more dust. I think on a foot pedal, at some point this year, I had a bug. A bug had went to its reward and decided to do it inside. It didn't smell bad or anything. It was just a dried out bug, and it was something to remove. It was not a big deal. Some of the edges of the porcelain can be a little coarse, and you don't want to get cotton fibers on there necessarily. So again, just be very very gentle when you do this. It's not difficult. I'm dipping my cotton swab now in the 99% isopropyl. Do not use water. Do not use anything that's going to take a long time to dry, because you really don't want to ever plug anything in if you think you're ready to use it. If it's wet, that should go without saying. Anyway, okay, so no harm, no foul. There's really not much here. Again, I've seen a lot dirtier and dustier than this. Now, one of the things you may notice is I don't know if this originally had a grommet. Sometimes they would put a strain relief, and then sometimes they would use a rubber grommet. And so I'm going to investigate. I have some that I may put in there to basically, by the way, the opening in this piece is very smooth. Sometimes they're a little rough, and you don't want the cord rubbing on that. So what I'd like to do right now, though, is I'm going to go ahead while I've got this sitting here, and I'm going to use, I have a few, no I don't, I was going to use my precision tips, got to get more. I'm going to dip some cotton swabs here, and basically I'm going to do what you all may have seen me do this before. I am basically just looking for any carbon buildup. I don't even see much here. There's really not here. If I just, this is I've moistened the cotton swab with 99% isopropyl, and I'm barely getting any carbon at all, at least on these contact points. So there's going to be some. If you never do this to your pedal, you could still use it. It'll function. Electrical contacts will, they build up carbon residue over time, and they were designed to still function. Because if you find yourself saying, hey, well, I've never done this to my pedal's old and it still works, so why do I need to do that? I'm basically, I'm here, right? I opened it up to make sure I don't see any cracks in the porcelain that I can locate. If there is damage to the porcelain on the other side, I can't see it, but I've been able to at least take a look at what I could see. And I'm going to come over here. There's some a little bit more of a build up. Get a little bit of a zoom here. Over here on this contact, get myself another cotton swab. I don't think I'm going to have much to deal with here. And sometimes I open these pedals up, and it's to quote the bard Shakespeare, much ado about nothing. But I don't know until I know. So for me, it's just knowing, okay, I looked at it, it's fine. There have been times, and you may have seen in past videos, you can see a lot more black on that first contact point, where I discovered, in fact, this happened on one of my clients' machines. They had a Kenmore, and I started inspecting the pedal, and I'm glad I did because the pedal was cracked and we had to replace it. So this is one of those things I like to look at. Notice right here, if you're going to do any kind of cleaning, be very gentle, because these pieces here, these little contacts, they have the coil wires attached, and if you in any way cause a problem with these wires, usually it's you may see that the wire has been undone or it's broken. Do not use the pedal. Just do not use the pedal if it's broken. Consider it. You'll put this in your e-waste or your recycling, and you get you can either get another vintage pedal. People sell them when the machine's gone, but they still have the pedal. You can do that. The other thing you can do is simply replace it with a generic electronic pedal, and those are not particularly hard to find, nor are they costly. Now I'm going to come here under the arm and get any of that black some black came off onto that arm. And basically just getting the soot off of there. This is something that I do just to ensure that the pedal is going to give me 100% of all the power it can, or regulate all the power it can. I'm sorry, the power is actually being generated by the motor, controlled by this device. So, and that is it. That is the Mercury is a very common brand you'll find. They would have been a fairly large player, not the only one. I think I've seen the name Atlas before, but different companies who made electrical equipment. This says, I don't see it says USA. One of the reasons for this, and that you see a lot of either US or Canadian made electrical components, is simply that after the Second World War, when we start to see an increase in the number of imported sewing machines coming from European countries, coming from Japan, they're trying to jumpstart countries' economies after the war, and sewing machines is something that one of the first things they start to produce. If you see electrical componentry, whether it's the speed controller, whether it's the motor itself, the plugs, they often will have, for North America, it'll say US or Canada, because at the time countries were producing machines, but they were trying to produce electrical components for their own countries, and countries in Europe have different electrical systems for many things, maybe not all, but for many. And in those situations, they didn't want to say, well, we can't export our machines to North America because we don't have electricals. So the electricals were simply added. They would specify what they wanted, and it was, they were in 110 to 120 voltage range. So there we go. That's a pretty clean pedal, guys. Now, while I have the pedal open, again, I'm just inspecting. I really don't see anything amiss here, but at least I can say I know that. And you look at, because gravity is a thing, you will see, I'm not even going to use a cotton swab for this. Usually dust and dirt would fall, it'll end up on the bottom plate here. Now, some of this looks like staining. I'm looking to get loose stuff off of here. I'm not going to go in and say with polish and remove stains. I'm trying to get, and I've got, by the way, I dipped this little rag in my 99% alcohol. I'm just coming around, you know, anything that's loose or that the alcohol will dissolve, I pulled up. But the rest of this, you know, it's a hard film. You can remove it if you want. You can scrub it extra hard. It's not really essential, because it's not going to whatever's on here is not going to start flying off into the electrical device. It's not really an aesthetic issue. One thing I am going to do, take one of my cotton swabs that I've dipped in my isopropyl, and I'm coming around just to make sure that none of that, no dirt or filth has gotten in there, because I really would like this thing to, I want my pedal to accept the bottom tray when I slide it back on, and it has to be snug to some degree or it wouldn't stay, it would just slide right off. But if I can get this to be clean, I'm hoping it'll be a little bit, just maybe ever so slightly easier to get put back on. That would be nice. All right, so there we go. We have cleaned yet another, we have inspected and cleaned yet another foot pedal from back in the day. This is a Rheostat, and that is it. I do find it curious. The FOF machine that this goes to is a deep, rich, glossy black. The pedal, I'm wondering if this pedal, it should have been specified by FOF, and I'm wondering that because it has a very similar finish, sort of a finish pattern, and it has a very similar color to that FOF Model 6. I don't know what you all call this. I call this like a white gold or a platinum. It's like a warm, very warm silver. Or, you know, we could play with color names all day long. But there we have it. That is inspected and cleaned, the foot pedal for the FOF. And many times I open these up, I usually see, you know, some fuzz, some dust, some pet hair sometimes, and you want to get that out. Many times there's nothing to see, but I have opened these up before when the porcelain was cracked and it wasn't making any noise, right? Because it wasn't completely crushed and broken. But if I see any cracks, I just stop right there. I don't even bother to clean it because I'm not going to use it. I'm just not interested in doing that. On the Kenmore that I had, the plastic housing was cracked, and that's part of the insulation for it. So again, this is one of those things I like to do if I don't know the history of the machine, and basically that's pretty much all the machines I get. So thank you all for watching me with the exciting but necessary act of inspecting and cleaning a Rheostat foot speed controller, foot pedal as we often call them. And if you haven't subscribed, just hit the subscribe button there. And if you would like to donate to my efforts to save these machines, you can click on any of my videos which have a Buy Me a Coffee link, or there on the homepage, and you can donate to the channel, and that will help me in purchasing more machines to save, because almost always I have to buy them before I overhaul them and save them. Thank you all for supporting the channel, and we will see you in the next video.